9:33. We'll agree at that. Welcome to the Metro Plan Orlando CAC meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Dr. Dan Stevens. I'll be chairing the meeting today. This meeting is fully in person, so all committee members are asked to be present in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom. We still have virtual participation for the public. I ask all committee members to please speak clearly and use your microphones so those joining us virtually can hear. Now it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. Today, I will ask Mr. Peters to kindly lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Okay, looking around the room, it looks like we're way shy of a quorum. I guess we'll cover that here shortly, but in the meantime, there are two public comment points in the meeting. Members of the public who are here in person and want to make a comment should submit a speaker card to Miss Rachel Frederick. Those attending in Zoom who want to speak can use the raise hand feature on the Zoom screen. Unfortunately, Miss Council is not here, but I'd like to thank her for leading the meeting in February. Unfortunately, car troubles. There you go. Today, we're welcoming 6 new members to the CAC. I'll introduce them and let them each say a brief hello. And do we have those?
We have 3. We have Ms. Rogers,
Caroline
Roski, and Mr. Caesar.
Thank you. Thank you. And so to my right, we have Caroline Roski. We'll start off with you. Did you want to say a couple words where you're from and what inspired you to join us?
Sure. My name is Caroline Roski. I recently moved to St. Cloud about three years ago. And we saw that there was an opening and needed someone to come represent on this committee for St. Cloud. So that's how I joined.
Very good. Thank you and welcome.
Happy to be here.
We also have Baricio Rogers on my left. Would you like to tell us where you hail from and what inspired you to join our ranks?
Platform. My name is Baricio Rogers Francis. I'm here from the U.S. Virgin Islands. I'm also a semi-retired, part of the St. Cloud Chamber, proud to be a member of St. Cloud Chamber of Commerce. And what inspired me to be here is because I would like to, if possible, share my little knowledge coming from having a driving school in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the traffic, and what I'm seeing if I could get a little input in. And because I see you guys could get help in every way possible. So that inspired me. I want the best for my country.
Well, very good. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. So that's 2 from St. Cloud, right? So, and then on my left, we have Mr. Joseph Caesar, and he's from the city of Orlando. Did you want to, you're an appointee from the city, correct?
That's my mistake. Actually, he's in Orange County.
Oh, you're Orange County. Okay, got it. Understood.
Thank you so much. No, I'm glad to be here. I was excited about this opportunity. Just looking to continue to serve Orange County and lend a voice to residents in Orange County. So I'm excited to be here and learn and continue to give input.
Very good. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining our ranks. So I informed the Metro Plan Orlando board about our selection process for the new appointees at the March meeting, where they approved the slate. I also told the board about the discussions at the February meeting on bicycle safety and underscored our desire for the region to be more proactive on safety for cyclists and pedestrians. We're delighted to have some special guests today.
Have they joined us yet?
Have
Our
they joined
guests
us?
From Hillsborough? They're not here yet.
Well,
but they may be.
soon. I'll speak in the future tense then. They will be joining us from the Hillsborough County TPO. Going to be here observing Metro Plan Orlando operation, learning a little bit more about our board and our committee setup. If they have any questions afterwards, I will make sure that I go and introduce myself and avail myself for any questions, comments. Today we have a pretty full agenda, so I hope we can move forward through as efficiently as possible. Remember, if you have any questions that don't get answered in the meeting, Ms. Horn will follow up with the presenters and get those answered. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Mary Ann Horn of Metro Plan Orlando's staff, who will do our agenda review. Good morning.
I want to find Mr. Davis's chair, but you can sit here, Ms. O'Bodry's not.
Yes.
Welcome.
Guys, my tardiness.
Not a problem.
Do you see it? Oh, it's over here, by the way, just so
Got
you know.
it. I'll
So,
move over there. No problem.
and a quick question, is that what you, what your comment was about? Yeah, put on your microphone. I'm sorry. So your comment was that how do members ask questions and things of that
Yes,
nature,
how do
right?
members ask questions?
Good. Here's our low-tech way of asking questions. You stand your table tent on end, and hopefully someone around me will say, by the way, we've got questions, and we'll go from there. So sure thing now. So anyway, like I said, Miss Marion Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all our committee members and all those attending, both in the room and online. We're glad you're here. We currently need a quorum of 15 members in the room to conduct votes. As always, members, it's very important to RSVP for meetings with Rachel, whether you are coming or not coming, so we know what to expect. We do have Zoom and YouTube options for the public. We have just launched our 2024 Regional Transportation Survey, and we would like all of you to take it and share it among your contacts. Some of you may remember that we do this public opinion market research every few years. And the data that we gather informs all our planning, especially the upcoming 2050 MTP. The survey will be open through the Memorial Day weekend, and you will hear a presentation on the results at one of your future meetings. You see here that we have a short link as well as a QR code to take you to the survey. We have started with intercept surveying in Orange and Osceola counties. At the moment, we will be making a big public push in the next few weeks. I wanted to give it to you first. You can get it out there and help us spread the word. I want to bring your attention to some flyers that are at your places. You have a save the date flyer for our Vision Zero Safety Speaker Series, and you'll be getting more information, including how to register on that soon. You also have EV readiness memo from Mr. Eric Hill of our staff, and you have an updated MTP draft goals and objectives sheet there, as well as a little yellow piece of paper that I'm going to talk about later, so I'm not going to steal my own thunder. And those of you who are new members, I also included a set of instructions on how to use the Cadence in 6 easy blocks. If you have any questions, you can ask me, you can ask the person next to you, you can ask Marissa, who's chuckling in the corner. But at any rate, that's what we have. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mike Wilson, who is going to present our safety moment for today. Mike?
Thank you, Mary Ann, and good morning, everyone. 2 safety moments this morning. I'm going to do it 2 we're trying to cram it all together here. Talking about both distracted driving and seat belts this go around. So for distracted driving, in the past, show you some of the basic data, over 20,000 crashes per year, according to our data crash reports, involving some form of distraction. Over 600 a year involving serious injury crashes, and that's 40% of all our serious injury crashes, and over 40% of our fatal crashes per year as well. when it comes to any problem, I like to think about the consequences in really objective terms. And so here's an example of that. Let's talk about just one extra half second of reaction time, perception and reaction time when we're driving. Say we're going down the road at 40 miles per hour. If we had 2 seconds of perception reaction time, we're going to cover 112 feet in that 2 seconds. An extra half second gets us nearly 30 feet farther down the road. So what does that mean when we're getting to the point where we really need to be stopping? Well, that vehicle that only had 2 seconds of reaction time got to 0. The one who needed an extra half second is still going over 20 miles per hour at that same point. So think about, as you see there, a crosswalk, for example, right? So those are the consequences of distraction, and that's just a half second. The other issue is seatbelts. I have about 80 fatal crashes per year that involve an unrestrained driver or a passenger. That's more than half of our fatal crashes involving that problem. 10 years ago, it was only about a third. So we are backsliding in that realm. So paying a little more attention and buckling up, as you can see, will have a huge impact on our safety consequences here. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Davis.
You said some form of distraction, but generally, what does that include? Besides cell phone topics?
Yeah, the thing is, the data on that from the crash reports is really quite incomplete. Most of the reports just say some form of distraction. It's really hard to pin it down. For example, when it comes to smartphones, getting access to that typically only happens with a fatal crash, whereas with serious and other lesser injury crashes, we don't get that data very often.
So largely this is based on an interview, some kind of testimony, some
Right.
explanation from a driver or something.
Right. It's hard for officers to justify doing, for let's say a minor injury, doing the level of investigation that would, look into accessing someone's phone to see if they were indeed using it.
And one last one, on the unrestrained drivers, we've gone from 34 to 54%, but is that percentage kind of misleading because of the fatality rate going down? I mean, I understand it's one metric, but with the fatality rate going down to less than 1 per 100 vehicle miles traveled, is the number of unrestrained kind of staying, not the percentage, but the number kind of staying consistent?
I will have to take a look at that. My recollection is that it is still it's going up, so that,
Any guess on that?
well, I know we had heard some months ago from FDOT that they were seeing that in their district-wide data as well as to the why. Yeah, I think really nothing we can point to.
Mr. Campbell, you also have a question?
I wanted to make sure I understand Mr. Davis's, was his question, what are other forms of distraction?
Right, yeah, I mean, well, we know what all they are, but as far as the actual proportions of the percentages, we don't really have that, because most of them, it's just the officer will just put distracted without getting into the specifics because they really can't.
Well, being in the
Discern.
insurance industry, the most common ones now, but common one now, of course, is this gadget that's in your hand. But the ones that's always been there, including everything from putting your makeup on in the morning on the way to work to your coffee or eating, still is an issue.
Mhm, yeah. Yeah.
Shaving is, believe it or not, people will shave on the way to work.
Yeah.
And even looking at something on the side of the road is still
Yeah.
a problem.
And what I like to say too is that often the number one distraction is right here between your ears. That just thinking about something other than you're driving, you have to catch yourself, and because I've seen the consequences of that.
Then you blank out. One other observation, don't see any other table tents here. One other observation you mentioned about the seatbelts. Another benefit to the seatbelts besides keeping you in the car in case of a crash, but it also keeps you in control of the car instead of hanging on to the steering wheel, you know, in some kind of an issue. Now you've actually got something that's holding you in place so that you can operate the vehicle. So something that often gets overlooked. A lot of times people are of the mind that, you know, I'll be fine, but, you know, so thought it warranted mentioning. Yes, sir. Mr. Caesar.
When you look at the averages, do you look at population growth? When you look at the 10-year
Yes.
differences?
Yeah, we look at rate, not only by population, but when we look at corridors, we'll also look at by vehicle miles traveled or traffic counts. So, yeah, whenever possible, we want to look at rate as well as the overall numbers.
Okay, oh, we have one more question.
Do you think that if we have the cars, that they're tinted deeply, the patrol, which is the officers, cannot see into the car properly? Do you think, during the time of the increase, it's because that, the officers would be able more to see that the law was enforced, to see whether or not they have seatbelt on?
That'd be a better question for law enforcement. I don't really have any experience.
The law was enforced at that time, because now that they have the cars dark enough, you could hardly see anything, whether they have on a seatbelt or whatever they're doing. Do you?
Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. I think
Yeah.
that'd be more of a question for law enforcement.
Good observation, though. So,
Okay, thanks, Mike. If there's no other questions, we're going to move on to our FDOT liaison, Ms. Amy Beckman, who's gonna update us on some things happening with the State Department of Transportation. Amy?
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you all. My name is Amy Beckman. I am your FDOT liaison for you new members. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am here to help. I'm happy to present to you this month's FDOT report. I have a few quick construction report updates. They didn't make the April cutoff. Both of them are in Seminole County. For County Road 46A and Reinhardt Road intersection, the update is that the contractor is currently working on stabilization, clearing and grubbing earthwork, widening work on both north and southbound Reinhardt Road, as well as 46A, and paving, as well as installation of some MOT for the temporary work. And the I-4 and US 1792 interchange, the contractor is currently working on erosion control, maintenance, widening work, and paving on westbound on and off ramp, stabilization, barrier wall work, restriping of the eastbound I-4 off ramp, and installation of maintenance of traffic as well. A few quick recently completed projects, all in Orange County. The intersection project at Cimarron Boulevard and Curry Ford Road was completed in late March. It included upgrades to traffic control, resurfacing, and improving drainage. The Princeton Street from Shell Road to John Young Parkway resurfacing project reached final acceptance also at the end of March. The signal reconstruction project at Silver Star Road and Powers Drive concluded just a few weeks ago at the beginning of April. I do have information on lane closures. If you're interested in hearing any of those, please see me afterwards. I'm happy to go over those with you. And finally, just a few quick upcoming events. FDOT's Target Zero will be participating in the Touch a Truck at the Children's Safety Village. That is this Saturday, April 27th from 9:30 to 1 p.m. It's at 910 Fairvilla Road in Orlando. It's a great event where there's family fun. Kids can come out and see different trucks. There's going to be some giveaways, food trucks, face painting, and so a nice little event for the family. There's also the Rollin' and Strollin' event. We are sponsoring Saturday, May 18th from 9:30 to 2 p.m. That's going to be at 800 Grand Street in Orlando. It is in conjunction with Bike Week Florida. We do have some bikes that are going to be donated, and we'll be talking about our bicycle safety with those that are in attendance. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
Appreciate
wonderful day.
Your report. At this juncture, I understand we have our visitors from the Tampa, the Hillsborough County TPO. Is that correct? Can anybody verify that? Okay. I'm just looking for some acknowledgement. Okay. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I will avail myself, as will I'm sure the staff, after the meeting. Of course, you're always welcome to fill out a comment card and participate in the process as well. So anyway, thank you so much. Welcome to the meeting.
Welcome.
Where am I at? And
Roll
I'm
call.
sorry. Where is the roll call here? Okay. That is actually Miss Frederick. I'd like to ask Miss Rachel Frederick. I'm sorry, I got lost in my my script here. Miss Rachel Frederick to check the roll. Call the roll, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask all members to keep microphones off until you're called. Battler, Bobinger, Bolton, Bosley,
Present.
Campbell,
Present.
Caesar,
Present.
Coleman, Davis,
Here.
Gus,
Present.
Lozada, Lopez, Mott,
Present.
Mueller,
Present.
Niesman, O'Hanlon,
Here.
Pereira, Peters,
Present.
Pizzo,
Present.
Rogers, Roski,
Present.
Salas,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Willenbring. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the roll call. We do have a quorum.
Made it right on the money, right? So, well, good stuff. We'll now hear public comments on action items. Do we have people online who want to speak any of these items? If so, please use the raise hand functions on the screen or press *9 on your phone keypad. When we call your name, the host will unmute your microphone. You'll see a button pop up that says the host wants to unmute you. Accept that prompt to activate your microphone. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record. Please hold your comments to 2 minutes. Are there any comments at this time?
Mr. Chair, I do not see any hands raised on the virtual side.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have any people present in the boardroom today who wish to comment on action items?
Mr. Chairman, I've received no comments.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, let's get started with our action items. We have 4 action items today. First, the approval of the minutes from the February meeting. Looking for approval of the CAC minutes from February 28th, 2024. These are in tab 1 of your agenda packets. Have a motion to approve the February minutes.
Second, Teresa Mott.
And you saw that, Mr. Peters, right? So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we're considering a request to recommend approval of Metroplan Orlando's public participation plan, which is why Marianne has abandoned me up here. So, as well as the public participation plan for the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Information is provided in tab 2 and tab 3. Here, a presentation from Ms. Marianne Horn of Metroplan Orlando, who will provide information on both plans. We'll then vote on them separately. Ms. Horn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here today, as Chair Stevens told you, to talk about our public participation plan updates. We have two plans with aligned goals, but slightly separate missions. And I want to tell you about each of them, and then you will vote on each of them to recommend. This is a vote to recommend approval to the board, which I hope you will. First is our 2024 organizational public participation plan. This sets the tone for all of our public participation efforts at Metro Plan Orlando. It outlines our goals in a broad manner, and it guides what we do to make sure that the public has a voice in transportation planning. Then we have the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which has its own public participation plan. And that's because the MTP, as we call it, is developed as our foundational long-range document, and it happens in a concentrated period of time. And so that core plan of ours needs to have its own special spin on public participation. These plans comply with our federal mandate to let you and everybody in the region know how we are attempting to reach out to people. We have had 45-day comment period, which is required. The plans were posted on the 15th of March and will be up through the 10th of May. We have also promoted them on social media, our website, and in other ways. And we have received comments, which you have in your packet, attached to the board action fact sheets for each of these. Here are some examples of some of the graphic elements that we use in our outreach. These are just two examples, not all of the ways that we did. And so when we update these plans, which, as I said, we are required to do, we review our previous plans and our performance measures. And in this case, the last time we updated the organizational public participation plan was in 2019. And I think you all remember what happened right after 2019. Yes, we had an event. And so as we updated it this time, we held in mind what we learned from that. More on that in a few minutes. The last time, of course, that we had an MTP public participation plan was the last time that we were out with a new update to the long-range plan. That was our plan for the year 2045. And as you know, we do that every 5 years. So we review the latest in the U.S. Department of Transportation guidance, in this case, promising practices for meaningful public involvement, which came out last year. And we review our peer agency plans to see what they're doing well and see if we can appropriate any of their best practices. We have some overarching themes. They shouldn't be a surprise, but it helps to restate them. We want to balance in-person and virtual engagement to leverage the advantages of each one, because people are used to having that engagement now. Post-pandemic, that's a requirement. And we learned a lot during the pandemic. We want to put that to use, and we have gotten good engagement that way. We include strategies that reach our transportation underserved communities. These are the parts of our region that do not have as many opportunities as others, and we continually look for ways that we can lift that up and help get those voices into the process. And also to expand our reach through strategic partnerships with community-based organizations, because we find that at this day and age, when people are just overwhelmed by communication from anybody and everybody, that reaching out through a trusted partner is really the best way to reach people. And so we have made a lot of strides in that and gotten a lot of good partnerships on board in the nonprofit sector and health sector and other places. So the organizational public participation plan is the first one that you will vote on. These plans are both available on our website in draft form on the public participation plan page. You'll see both plans there. The MTP plan also appears on the MTP page. But you had in your package, there was a link to review those. And as I said, they are still open for comment. The organizational public participation plan has two main thrusts. One is to encourage two-way communication with the community, because if we're just putting information out at people, we're not really communicating, we're posting. In our case, we want communication back, and we work very hard to get that. And the plan outlines some ways that we do that. Also, as I said, we want to consistently reach out to and get input from members of the public all across the region who may not have as many chances to be at the table. And that includes a lot of considerations for us, from age, ability, language, socioeconomic situation, and also access to technology. You'll notice that when we have things in a digital form, we try to offer people an analog way to take advantage of that if they're not comfortable or don't have those. Then you'll vote on the 2050 MTP Public Participation Plan. This one, as I said, here the outreach is robust while still being inclusive and very accessible with a strong digital presence, because you do reach a lot of people with digital products. And so we will keep you posted on all our events. And we hope that you will participate, and we hope that you will spread the word on them, because that's a very helpful thing that you can do as a committee member. We will receive public input at pretty much every event that we do, and that can be shared with our decision makers. That's you. You are decision maker. We will be sharing the public input with you. We always get surveys and questions, and we bring these back to you. And so you can be looking for regular updates in the next few months once we really launch this public outreach. And then we seek engagement with a diverse group of stakeholders. And here is where we really need your help. On your desk there in front of you, you have a bright, sunny yellow piece of paper. It looks like this. We would like for you, before you leave this room today, to take a look at this and see what you can, if you can write something on this sheet. And what we want you to write on here is your name, but also the name of a group or a community event or organization that you think needs outreach from us. Somebody that you think would like to talk about transportation, and you would like for us to make an approach to them. If you know somebody at that organization, you can just circle yes, and we'll come back to you and get that contact info. You don't need to produce it here. If you don't, that's fine too. If you just think you should reach this group, we'll see if we can do some research and see if we can reach that group. Please, before you leave the room today, the sunny yellow sheet, I would appreciate it. You can just leave it at your place. We'll collect them. You can ask me any questions after if you need. And so with that, I'll take any questions about the plans.
Any questions for Marianne? Judy, I see you first.
Thank you, Chair. What's your timeline on this? Is it finite, or is it just ongoing?
On which part?
On both, on either.
The organizational public participation plan, those stay in force for a few years. As I said, we updated the last one in 2019. We try to get those updated every 3 to 5 years at the most, because the guidance changes and the tools change. And on the MTP, as I said, very specific to when we're running an MTP effort. And, and so that the 2050 MTP will be up for board approval at the end of 2025. And so all that we're going to do is going to happen between the time that the board approves this outreach plan and the time that that they have to have information back in to make a decision on the plan. We try to reach out early in that time frame as much as we can, because we like to get input that will help shape the plan. And the last time around we did. People's comments and interests and so forth, begin to influence some of the ways that we put together the final product there. So that's what we really look for. Thanks for the question.
Very good. Any other questions for Marianne? I see Ms. Mott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, in regards to the timeline, time permitted for public comments, who sets that threshold?
To comment on the plans, oh, that's a federal guideline.
Federal guideline? So
We're exceeding it.
we
actually,
are,
with this.
what's the guideline?
45 days would be the minimum, and we'll exceed that at the end.
No, I'm speaking of the public comments, like when people are speaking in
Oh.
public, who sets that? 2 minutes? Don't we have 2 minutes?
I believe Virginia can correct me. Yeah, we do, and that's part of our office policies. and
Okay. I was just curious, because generally, oftentimes in public comment settings, people tend to complain about not having enough time, and I'm just curious as to who set that threshold.
Well, we understand that, and but we have multiple ways to comment. We have, we have an email box that's always open, and we have, like in this case, we have specific places where you can comment at length, and, that if it's in the nature of just wanting an answer to a question, our staff is always available and willing to help with that.
Okay, and understand I'm not challenging it. I was just curious as to who sets the time limit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, people come up and speak and they're not succinct sometimes, and they may exceed the timeline. So I was just wondering,
I understand.
are
We
we
do try
flexible
to
on that when?
advertise that. We tell
Okay.
people what to expect. So
Okay.
we hope that they will tailor their comments, but we also have alternatives for them if they don't. And we've had people do that. They've come up here and they said, well, I didn't finish. We go, please, submit that in written form, and we show that to the board as well. So
Thank you.
we try to help
Very
with
good,
that.
thank you.
Okay.
And my apologies, I missed Mr. O'Hanlon, and thanks for the assist, Mr. Davis.
Well, you didn't miss me, but you caught me now. I had requested to actually supply some information at the beginning of the meeting, and I think I will give it to you mostly under item B, the 2050 plan. But I'm going to be so bold to say I'm no longer going to placate everybody here. The future is going to be so different than what we are planning. I am sick and tired of Central Florida wasting money on a bunch of crap that's not going to come to be, okay? We need to be going out informing our community in these conversations about how it's going to change with robo-taxis and self-driving cars. It's happening, and it's probably happening before this year is out, okay? I've been talking about this forever. Well, the timeline is now here. We need to start thinking about what the future is really going to be like, other than just status quo, nothing changes, everybody does the same thing day after day after day, when it's not going to happen. Economics rules all decisions. It may not happen immediately, but economics will always prevail. Okay, and I'll go through this under item B. But I want you to know that from now on, I'm going to vote no on every freaking thing till we start addressing what the future really looks like. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. O'Hanlon.
Okay, I didn't hear a question
it's,
there, but.
Yeah, exactly. Understood. With that being said, actually, I do actually have an observation, having read a lot of the comments, in the agenda, the public comments. There were some that were a little perplexing, like they didn't understand what the process was. I'm just wondering, you mentioned specifically the challenge of trying to reach underserved communities, or maybe some people might qualify them as historically excluded communities, whichever. But do you ever get any kind of kickback or in your public participation processes? Do you ever have people that are against that idea of trying to, do public outreach? I mean, if you read through some of the comments in our agenda, it just seems like there are people that are of the mind that they're almost adversarial in the way they're kind of confrontational. Do you get that? Do you get that a lot?
I think what we find, Mr. Chair, is that we put out for comment public participation plans. What people comment on seems to be their feelings about the transportation system, in a lot of ways. I think if you filter the comments in that way, you see that, most of them are really their thoughts about transportation, which are welcome. And I would add that we reply to every single emailed comment that we get with a personalized reply to that person, which also gives them a contact here of the person who answers that. And so we do offer them a way in, if they want to pursue that, and a couple of them have. In general, though, I have never, I think, heard anyone say they weren't in favor of public participation. I think I have heard them suggest that they don't think it does any good. And in that case, we take time to point out to them some events and situations like last year's MTP where we think it does change things, and we want to have that conversation. So.
Understood. Well, and I would point out that the state of Florida is decidedly against DEI initiatives. Inclusiveness is one of those, one of those areas, and including people's comments, opinions, and things of that nature. So, I just, I happen to just go through our policies about the same thing. So anyway, I was curious is all. I do see, actually, I've got two comments, and let's call it after the two comments. I've got Mr. Coleman first.
Thank you. I would like to say, I'm gonna just piggyback a little bit. I actually like it. But I think that it's colorful. It's kind of easy to read. It is get kind of confusing when you get to the technical terms, but I think throughout the entire, like little package that you put together, there's emails, there's virtual events, there's social medias that you can visit. I think that you guys reiterated that over and over again, and I think that you may not see it get through now, but I think if you continue to do those kind of things, that it will. So I like it. Thank you.
You're here. And Miss Alice, you as well, please.
Hi, thank you. You put everything together well. I think that on what Mr. Coleman said is true, that, putting together all the virtual emails and stuff like that. I think we have to be concerned or careful for, if you want to talk about different pockets of communities, to always also, throw out the phone numbers or, snail mail, if we want to call it, because not everybody has access, which is the concern, I think, in most underserved communities. They don't have 24/7 stuff. We don't have, high speed and have time to, it's such a difficult situation, I know. So that's always the thing I think about. Where's the phone number, that kind of stuff. But the second thing I wanted to say is that given what Mr. O'Hanlon has talked about, and we've talked about this a lot in our committees for years, is it possible, though, to consider or even talk about a subcommittee that deals with the issues that we really seem to push? Like, there's a group of us that really believe, like, this is really coming. What is the state of that, and how do we funnel that energy towards something productive where we can actually approach either, this group or the larger group and say, this is where we see things and where we need a seat at the table. Because here we don't really have that seat. We have funneled through the typical things that are already created. And if we want change, or if we want to consider change, we have to create a new route inward. And that's a subcommittee, or at least some type of discussion like that. That's all I wanted to propose.
Good comment.
I would just say, if that was a question for me, that if that is something you have an interest in, it can be submitted. We can discuss it with leadership and with staff and see what might be productive. And we could take it up at a future meeting. But
very good. Back to the business at hand. So to reiterate, we're going to be voting on two different action items. Do we have a motion, first of all, to recommend approval of the Metro Plan Orlando Public Participation Plan? That was plan number one, right? Mr. Davis and Judy Pizzo. There's a second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh.
I think the only thing I feel that we would need, because the Hispanic community is a big majority of the population, is having a liaison in Spanish or somebody there to participate or written word in Spanish. I'm not sure how committed you guys are to putting those things. They want to be a part of that. And I think that that would make it much easier for people to
Very
understand.
good. Did you want to quickly?
Yes, and we do have Spanish language materials. All of our major brochures are in Spanish, and we do have Spanish speaking staff to talk with people. And and we do provide any kind of interpretation that's needed on that when it's asked for.
Yeah.
So we have things that are available, and we also are willing to go the extra mile on that. Thank you for bringing
Thank
that
you.
up.
By the way, when we close the comments, if anybody does have any comments, questions, whatever, and we don't have time for it during our normal discussion, you're always welcome to also submit questions. And Marianne's always been very good about finding answers for you. So anyway, point of order procedure, we already took a vote, right? We're halfway through the vote. I guess we ought to scrap that. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? There you go. We have to have a roll call. Ms. Frederick.
Bosley, Bosley, if you can please say if you're.
Yeah, you're voting for or against. So, but use your microphone.
Yes.
Thank you. Campbell,
Yes.
Caesar,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
Mott,
Aye.
Mueller,
Yes.
O'Hanlon,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Pizzo,
Yes.
Rogers, Roski,
Yes.
Salas,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Webster.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, we have 15 yes and 1 against.
Understood. The motion passes. Now, next we're asked to approve the second plan Ms. Horn talked about, the public participation plan for the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and supplemental information is tab 3. Motion to recommend approval of that participation plan. All in, do I hear a motion?
I make a
Teresa,
motion
to approve.
and
Recess.
Brian Coleman second.
Okay. So
Point
Ms.
of
Mott would
order,
be-
afterwards. I wanted to ask if there was a way, since we're gonna have a nay, to just have somebody, I would propose that we
Just call the roll.
say yay,
Got it. So
stipulating
skip
no.
that part. Okay, understood. So we still have to have the motion. So Ms. Mott made the motion. Mr. Coleman seconded it. Anticipating we're probably going to have a no vote. We could skip ahead to the roll call. Ms. Frederick? My question would be to approve the,
When you have the motion on the floor, you're going to want to have a call for discussion.
I misunderstood what you were saying. So any discussion on the matter?
We can move to approve with the stipulation he will say no, and then it can be in unison, correct?
Okay.
You had
I heard your
discussion when the
comment,
motion's
and then
on the
I
floor.
missed Ms. Mott's comment. I missed what you'd said, Ms. Mott. Okay, understood. So now we're good, and now we can move on to the roll call. Is that correct?
With the motion on the floor, Mr. Chair, you need to now offer the opportunity for discussion. Having the motion opens the opportunity for discussion.
Okay, understood. Okay, I'm sorry, I was confused as that. So, Ms. Pizzo, you have a comment for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a very important plan, if I can call it, because it is setting the groundwork for that 2050 MTP. And on the heels of Mr. O'Hanlon's concerns here, I agree with him. We really need to get into the future because the future is here, the future is now. So I want to see that in this. And that's my comment.
Understood. I've got that. I'd like to address that. We're talking about the public participation plans, right? And that's where you would actually be able to voice those type of comments in these plans. Now, things that Mr. O'Hanlon has mentioned in the past with regards to status quo, I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think there is consensus with that direction. For example, let me ask you something, Mr. O'Hanlon. You're a big advocate for Tesla. I've got that. I think everybody in here pretty much understands the whole Tesla thing. And I've got it. Hold that. I will allow you a comment here in a second. There are a lot of people that can afford Tesla. That is not the end all be all for our transportation woes. And so that's why I actually advocate for diversifying our transportation system. Yes, I mentioned before the meeting, I went to the Tesla website yesterday. I personally like the idea of Tesla. I think it would be really great for our environment, but I don't think that that is the right fit for everybody. And so that's why I advocate for other things as well. And I think that's where Mary Ann's public participation plans come in, where you can hear people from underserved communities. Hey, I can't afford a Tesla, or whatever, other, places where they don't necessarily speak English, or, like Miss Gus mentioned, that's why I mentioned that, So this is that opportunity. That's what we're voting on. So I hear your comments, but, Ms. Pizzo, did you want to,
I want to elaborate on what you're saying.
Can
I
respond in
appreciate,
first?
hold on.
Point.
I appreciate O'Hanlon's passion for Tesla, but it isn't about Tesla. It's about the science of transportation. It's about what is happening in transportation, and it will very much serve those that are underprivileged. They won't need to buy a car. 90% of us, probably more, in this room won't need to buy a car because there'll be cars, there'll be transportation out there that we can just hop on and go. It isn't going to be about owning a Tesla. And I just wanted to reiterate that. I know he's very passionate, and a lot of times that's kind of all we hear from Mr. O'Hanlon, but it's about the science of where transportation is going now, and it's here. That capability to park your car, you don't need to anymore. My car is sitting in the garage right now. It's very close to the future where it can take me to work and go back to my home and then come get me at 5 o'clock in the evening if I was working, or not even own a car, just hop on something else and go. It's here, it's now, and you don't have to own a $28,000 low-end Tesla or any other cars. That's where we're trying to get the group mindset to think about what is available now, and it's going to be coming so quickly and so soon.
I would like to point out before I see Mr. O'Hanlon and then Ms. Roski and then Mr. Davis, I would like to point out, I think we're actually on the same side of the argument.
No, we don't.
Yes. I too I get frustrated with our transportation system. I've made my own notes as far as the exclusion of certain modes of transportation, even in our agenda today, that $218 million that we're spending on Sand Lake Road and I-4, not a single mention of sidewalk or pedestrian or anything else. I just want you to know, I got you, but I don't think that just being single-minded in that regard is the way to go. Again, Mr. O'Hanlon, you have something to say, sir.
Well, I was initially going to say this during the 2050 update, okay? I think you guys all know that I've had my Tesla forever, okay? What the public does not understand.
I'm sorry, is it possible you can sit down just so we can actually hear you with the microphone? No disrespect, sir.
is the extreme progress that's been made in the last 3 months. Okay? Elon's going to announce August 8th, the robo-taxis. It's not about owning a Tesla. No one needs to own a Tesla. If you do own a Tesla, he will allow you to use it in his robo-taxi fleet and pay you $20,000 a year for the use of your car that you only paid $28,000 for. But that's an aside, okay? He also just last night showed us the robo-taxi app. Not only is this car going to come get you almost for free, you can set the temperature in the car for whatever you want it to be, and it's already going to know who you are because of your phone, put it on your radio station. Everything is be totally custom to you as though it was your car. You're almost not even going to know it's not. And these cars can drive anywhere on the planet. Certainly can drive here in Central Florida. What my problem is I've been saying forever that this is coming. It's going to be here this year. We've done zero planning for this. And we're going to go out in public participation, ask people about buses and trains when no one's going to use a bus or a train. Why are you going to pay
See,
so
and that's
much
it.
money?
Mr. O'Hanlon, I'm sorry, this isn't a commercial for Tesla. I'm gonna have to
No,
cut
this
you
is
off
This is a
there.
commercially for robo-taxis.
It
In
doesn't
fact, the
matter.
transportation
Actually,
is
we
gonna be a
addressed this before the
service.
meeting. I said, you're welcome to make your comments at the end when everybody's able to make their comments. And now you just totally have disregarded that and derailed our meeting. Mr. Davis, did you want to jump in?
Mr. Chairman, Teresa Mott, I move to previous question, please. Call the question, please.
I'm sorry, beg your pardon?
I move to previous question, meaning we got a motion on the floor and we're at discussion. Call the
Understood.
question, so let's
Sorry,
vote,
Mr.
please.
Davis, you're gonna have to hold it then. So we have a motion and a second.
Voice vote.
We're going
voice
to
vote.
roll call.
We can, if there's opposition, we can, we can. I would like to hear from the people who have their cards.
We'd like to hear from the people that have.
I think what we need to do, Mr. Chairman, is to, the question has been called, and so we can ask the group if they wish to now proceed to a vote, and we'll see what they say.
Teresa
Okay.
Mott, I motion to vote on calling on previous question, as I stated.
Teresa, second.
I'm sorry, so there was a motion and a second on the floor. And so now you're making a motion
To take the vote.
to take the vote without further discussion. And that's what you seconded, Ms. Salas,
Correct.
is that correct?
Call for discussion, Mr. Chairman, on that.
Okay,
And then vote.
call discussion. Anybody have an issue with taking a vote now without hearing the comments? So, see, we're just.
All in
back to
favor?
Square one then.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Right, there you go.
Any opposed?
So it's 3 opposed against us, so it moves, it passes. So call the
Got
question,
it.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you.
My
Ms. Bowe,
pleasure.
For your guidance on navigating that, touchy situation there, so.
Remaining.
This is all staged for our guests from, Tampa TPO, by the way, so. Okay, voice vote, Ms. Frederick, please.
Thank you. Bosley,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Caesar,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Gus,
Yes.
Mott,
Aye.
Mueller,
Yes.
O'Hanlon,
No.
Peters,
Yes.
Pizzo,
No.
Rogers, Roski,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes,
Webster.
Yes.
We have 14 yes and 2 against. The motion passes.
motion passes.
I didn't get called, but yes.
Apologies. That's okay.
Thank
I
you.
did miss you. Thank
And
you.
to recap, this was a vote on the public participation plan. During the MTP public participation process, there will be opportunities to comment on all types of transportation needs, and we have many discussions about the future of transportation, and you'll hear more about those.
Very good. Thank you very much, Ms. Thorne. Okay, so that was actually, let me see here. No, actually, we've got one more action item. An act to approve the fiscal year 2025-2026 Unified Planning Work Program. Supplemental information is provided in tab 3. Mr. Alex Trauger, Metro Plan Orlando, provide the information. Mr. Trauger, you are recognized, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone. This is my third presentation to this group and all of our committees on this topic. This morning, we are asking for your approval of our Unified Planning Work Program, which is our internal operating budget, a federal requirement. So we've talked schedule, and you've seen this dashed box move along the schedule along the way. We're at that important point in the process here during this April-May cycle, where our board will approve our UPWP and will transmit that on time to FDOT consistent with state statute. Again, this is my third presentation to you all. Not a lot of change from the draft document that we presented to you last cycle to what you see here presented in your packet. And this is actually in tab 4 of your agenda items. You'll find a board action fact sheet in a link similar to the other action items today, but really not a lot of changes specific to the draft versus final. We did receive feedback from FDOT, Federal Highway Administration, and the FTA, and based on that feedback and us receiving kind of confirming our revenue totals and following up with our including the board's budget amendment from their last cycle, which deobligated fiscal 24 funds and moved those into our fiscal 25 budget. So those were the primary changes that were made from draft to final. No changes as it relates to the work list, the to-dos, the different projects and studies that we're going to be working on. Nothing changed there, just some dialing in of the revenues based on updated control totals. So you'll see our current year fiscal 24 budget, which includes, as I've presented on in the past, our SS4A grants of close to $5 million. You'll see in current year, as we're spending that grant down, completing those action plans, some of that money is rolling over into next year, as well as our deobligation, the funds that were deobligated, which are federal, primarily federal funds that were deobligated, that rolled into that fiscal 25 number. But 8-9 million is pretty typical for our operating budget. Again, we do pass funds through as part of our UPWP to links to support their strategic planning activities. $350,000 a year is the FTA portion of our consolidated planning grant, but you also see about $153,000 additional funds in fiscal 25. That was their portion of that deobligation, which our board and their board approved that during their last cycle. You're also drawing attention to the SU funds that our board, through our board's policy, not in the UPWP, it's found in our TIP, but those funds support Lynx's transit asset management program and other eligible capital expenses for the transit operator. So with that, we are asking for your approval today of the budget as presented. Again, board action fact sheet and detailed information found in tab 4. As well as the resolution. If you have any questions, I'll be doing my best to field those, but this is an action item today. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Trauger. Do we have any questions for
move
Mr.
approval.
Trauger?
I second the approval.
So move to approve. We have a motion and a second. Any discussions? Hearing none. Let's take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you very much. At this juncture, I would like to recommend something. I'd like to deviate from the agenda for a second. I can hear the frustration in a lot of voices. There are a lot of people that are not happy with how things are going with transportation and are, in the process. And I got that. I would like to recommend that we create either a task force, a subcommittee, or have a simple workshop where we can talk ad nauseum about these problems where everybody can voice their suggestions, their recommendations, add their input from this group. Now, I don't have an answer for that yet, but it seems like that is something that people would be very willing to join the ranks. So my promise to you is this. I will look into this and come back at our next meeting, the May meeting, with some kind of a recommendation as to what we can do, be it write a white paper, for our policymakers. We can have those discussions, we can do whatever. And so I'm hoping that that will appease, everybody. So that way you don't feel like your voices are not being heard. So, I have a couple comments here, I guess.
Mr. Chair, I would be happy to address this with you and Vice Chair Council and involving other members of the staff.
Mhm.
At the moment, we are behind our schedule, and I think that what we need to do is discuss the possibility of placing this on an agenda with its own place on the agenda to discuss in the future, rather than attempting to solve it now. But as always, I am open to talk about whatever will make this committee be more productive and work more for outreach in our community. So
And that's exactly what I thought I was saying, but I think that didn't actually come through the way I meant to. So anyway, moving forward, because we are kind of short on time today, we have 4 presentations. So I ask all members and presenters to be mindful of the time. Actually, we're not doing too bad. Members, if you have a question for the presenter, stand your card on end, call those questions at the end of each presentation. Have to move along because of time. Please forward any additional questions to Ms. Horn. So first of all, we have Mr. Mike Wilson with the Vision Zero status update. So
Thank
the
you,
floor
Mr.
is
Chairman.
yours.
Good morning, everyone, again. So to bring you up to speed, public engagement has been continuing at a even greater increased pace in the past few months. You can see we've had over 40 community events, over 1,000 interactions with the public, over 150 local government meetings when we're looking at all the regional plans. We've finished up our 5th regional task force meeting and discussing how that group continues going forward. The list goes on, and so in the interest of time, I will move on, and we'll get this presentation out to you as well. Our team has put together a social media template, a number of templates, so things that can be shared for simple, punchy messages to get out to the general public on key issues of transportation safety. We have our speaker series, as Marianne mentioned. You have this at your place. Recently added was the plan of action for walking and cycling with Dan Burden in June. That's a Bike Walk Central Florida event. So the first 2 will be online. I'm not sure, and the Dan Burden one should be as well. And then later on in August,
we will stream that on
we're gonna be
YouTube from the library.
Yeah, it won't be a Zoom, but it'll be YouTube live stream. Yeah. Our task force meeting last week spent a good bit of time talking about the policy framework and what that means going forward with the plan. Again, a lot of text on this we'll skip through, but key discussion was talking about the prioritization. And so that's been narrowed down to these 5 key factors, and each of these has a weighting and a number of underlying metrics that contribute to that, so that we can prioritize not only safety projects, but also going forward, how do we prioritize safety within the broader MTP process. I've been doing some supplemental analysis with the data, looking at where we have really high transit boardings and alightings. Well, it turns out that actually overlays very consistently with our high injury network. You can see half of the transit boardings and lightings are on our high injury network. And so we're looking at the pedestrian and bike crashes that are within proximity to those, and that could provide opportunities for doing pedestrian hybrid beacons or rapid flashing beacons or other mechanisms to improve safe crossing opportunities. The team's been looking at emergency response, looking at, when did the crash occur and when did law enforcement or EMS reach the scene? Because of course, that's really critical when we're talking about making sure a serious injury does not become a fatality. And so what we're finding with that is that this is related to, not surprisingly, distance to the nearest police or fire station, a little bit longer response time at night. Fortunately, not seeing big differences when it comes to transportation disadvantaged areas. They're getting generally the same type of service. And when we know that when we put countermeasures out there, they're really unlikely to increase those response times, but they're certainly, hopefully, going to reduce the need for those service calls. And so that would benefit the system overall. We are putting together an action plan outline so that all of the local plans, as well as the regional plan, have the same general flow to them, same topics are covered, and then each team gets to customize what goes into that, by helping them all get a head start on that, and so we have consistency across all of our plans. Next steps, we are still looking at the next phase of the oncoming phase of the Safe Streets for All grant cycle. The August 29th deadline is what we're looking at for submitting for supplemental planning and or demonstration projects. We're currently in discussions with the 3 counties for the demonstration projects that we already have planned for the current grant. So all of that, we'll be bringing that forward to you all as to what we'll be submitting later this summer. And once again, the project schedule. So you can see we are closing in. What we plan to do now is your next set of meetings, the May-June series of meetings, will be giving you a probably 90% complete plan. Just a few last things to complete on it, but we want to show you, really take the time to show you what's in that. And then for the June-July series of meetings, it will be the formal adoption. We've got kind of a short meeting for July for the board, and so we want to make sure that we don't take up all their time during July meeting, but we have more time in June. So we're going to spread it out so that we can make sure that you have ample time to look at the information before we go for final adoption. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mike. Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Say none. Thank you so much. Next, we have a presentation from Ms. Taylor Laurent, Metroplan Orlando, give us an update on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We're ready for your presentation, ma'am.
All right, good morning. Thank you very much. Again, I'm Taylor Laurent, and I'll be abridging this presentation slightly because I know we're running low on time, but all of the information that I'm going over today was included in your agenda packets under tab 5, so you'll be able to follow along there or reach out to us at any point if you have any questions or want to talk about something in more detail. So beginning with our general status updates, you've heard about the public participations and we've discussed those this morning. I also wanted to let you know our existing conditions and area profile technical report is published on our website right now. So if you want to take a look at how we're using the system today and how we've grown over the past 5 years, you can take a look at that there. And the goals and objectives and drivers of change, which we've already started talking about this morning and I've been taking notes on, I will talk a little bit more about towards the end of the presentation, so I won't take my own thunder there. We're continuing our coordination with DOT and the Turnpike about our planning modeling efforts and kicking off several of our planning emphasis area projects as support of the 2050 MTP. And our needs assessments, looking at a multimodal structure for the year 2050. We have several ongoing, and you'll hear about our TISMO and active transportation plans in just a moment. Those needs assessments will be wrapping up this month. Now, kind of in April, we had our 2050 technical workshop. where we deep dived some topics that we knew we wouldn't have time for to have a 45-minute discussion in this advisory committee meeting format. So I would suggest that this committee do go back and rewatch that video, because that is where we talked through the draft goals and objectives for the 2050 plan, took the draft documents, refined it. The refined version is what you have at your seats in front of you for your review today, and we'll talk about that more in just a moment. But we also spoke at length about the drivers of change and the future trends that we're expecting to influence how our region grows and evolves through 2050. So to give a preview of that, again, I can't go through 25 minutes of content right now. I'm going as quickly as I can to try and get us back on schedule. But in general, the drivers of change are exactly those trends that are influencing the way we grow through 2050. And we're looking at those in kind of two separate categories, those that are unique to our region, to Central Florida, how we're growing and changing as a population, public health factors, economy, visitation, knowing that we have 75 million visitors a year for the past several years, excluding COVID-19. That usually equates to about 200,000 more people in the area at any given time that we are supporting traveling throughout the area. So we want to keep an eye on that, as well as how we're growing and developing. Then there are other factors, what I've called external factors, for lack of a better word today, is really talking about the industry-wide trends that are going to be influencing transportation moving forward. And that does include technology, so autonomous, connected, electric vehicles, AI, the taxi ride-sharing services, all of those will be included under that topic. So if you want a little more information about deep diving that one, I recommend watching the video. It starts, that particular section starts at minute 54 for your timestamp. Got that here in the slide as well, and we can follow up with that via an email so you can quickly access that information. We're also including additional topics such as changes in energy sources for vehicles. If we, for example, the increases in efficiencies for fuel usage for our existing gas-powered vehicles, we're buying less gas. There's less gas tax available for funding transportation projects. So how does that change things moving forward through 2050? That's one consideration for energy, to put that one in context. And we also have climate and other potential security or safety risks that we want to keep in mind looking through 2050, as well as state and federal and funding policy options. So again, I don't have time to go into more of those today. I really want your feedback on our draft goals and objectives. So I am going to strongly suggest watching the video, getting a better idea of what's going to be included in each of these topics, why we're including these, and if you have any additional questions or want to follow up on those items, or there's specific questions you want to see answered when we write the report, which will be ready in June for you to review at that time, please reach out to Marianne or myself, and we'll be happy to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so then the goals and objectives, I hinted at some of this history already, but you can follow along with the information that's in front of you. This started by reviewing the 2045 MTP goals and objectives, because those set the vision for what the goal was to develop for our transportation system in 2045. We're looking 5 years later. We're wanting to be just as encompassing, just as positive and forward thinking as has been done in the past, but taking into account any changes that have occurred technology-wise, policy-wise, or anything else within our area over the past 5 years. So we've done federal and state guidance reviews, as well as looking at best practices from our neighboring and peer MPOs to make sure that we are including the best of the best for our region. So going into the handout, I recommend that you kind of follow along with me. I don't have time to read through all of the objectives word for word. I'm going to stick to the goal statements themselves, but additional information is at your handout at your seat. So there are 5 goal areas, the first being safety, providing a safe and secure transportation system for all users. Reliability, providing a reliable transportation system across all modes for both people and freight. Connectivity, enhancing lives through improved access to opportunities. Community, enhancing the health and vitality of our region's communities and environments. Prosperity, strengthening our region's economy. So I know those are very broad, far-reaching goals, And each of the objectives help define those a little more clearly about what we want to see achieved through each of these goals. So please look that over in your handouts. But as I kind of briefly mentioned, these are broad strokes, but they are also highly interconnected, which you'll be able to see very clearly reading through the objectives. That one change for one of these items will create a plethora of changes in other areas, such as an increase in safety projects throughout the region, increases the safety of the community, allowing people to potentially use other forms of connectivity, riding your bike down to the park because you feel safe using that sidewalk compared to getting in your car because you don't want to be around that many other vehicles. There's other far-reaching implications to these goals. And the ultimate idea for this is to create a thriving Central Florida region and enhance our and enact our shared vision for transportation for 2050. So the draft goals and objectives you're seeing today have been revised based on the feedback we received at the technical workshop 2 weeks ago. Depending on time today, I'll look to Mary Ann to guide me for that. We're going to be requesting your feedback. If we have time for questions today, I will do my best to take them either now or after the meeting. But we will be following up with an electronic survey for you to also provide feedback by May 10th. Once we receive your feedback, we'll then finalize the goals and objectives and then start selecting draft indicators, which we will use to help measure our progress towards achieving these goals and objectives. And those draft indicators will come forth before you in June as well. So I mentioned this, I want to just highlight it for sure. We want to receive your feedback on the goals and objectives either today in person, via email following the meeting, or through this survey that you will receive a link to following today's meeting. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Mary Ann, do we have time for questions? Okay.
Mr. Mueller.
I don't really have a question. Thank you, Taylor. Great presentation. I just want to comment on some of the things that I've heard today. For one thing, this was a very lively and I think healthy discussion. I mean, I agree with what both of you are saying in concept. I do think that we probably all agree to that. I also agree that we should probably have a work session on this because this has been a long time coming. You know, I started on this committee as in the bicycle committee, and it changed into this committee here. But I'm still fully entrenched in bicycles. Well, not bicycles anymore. It's micromobility. We don't have bicycles anymore. We have micromobility devices, and it's very frustrating when 5 years ago I worked near UCF, and 5 years ago they redid Libra Drive. It's one of the roads on campus, and I was excited about that until they put it in, and there's a 4-lane road that people can do 45 even though the speed limit is 30, and there's just bike lanes right next to the road. And we've got to get out of this mindset. They're getting ready to redo Gemini Boulevard, and I am pushing hard to get a 10-foot separated path on that road for bikes and pedestrians because they're not bikes anymore. They do 20, 25, 30 miles an hour on scooters and skateboards and you name it. Whatever they can electrify, they put on there and they're going. So I agree with what you're saying. I think this world is changing very, very rapidly. And we've got to get out of this robotic mode where the road is a 4-lane highway with 2 bike lanes on it, and that's it. We've got to start keeping up with technology. And I'm not completely 100% electrified yet. I mean, I don't buy into that yet, especially with what I'm hearing in the community, but it's coming. It's here, and autonomous vehicles are here. So I just wanted to make that statement based on what we're hearing. Now, regarding this plan, I don't see anything in here that doesn't allow for everything we're talking about. We're talking about safety, reliability, connectivity, community prosperity. Those are general statements and goals that don't specifically say do what I just said, put a road in with 2 bike lanes. I think it's made, and Taylor, tell me if I'm wrong, to allow for technology changes and that type of thing. I mean, I guess that's my question. I mean, is that what this plan does? Because I'm missing the part that got people fired up in here. So that's really what I had to say. Thank you.
Yes, the goals and objectives are, like you've said, they're meant to be broad and encompassing. So we can develop a shared vision for what our transportation system will look like in 2050. We can agree on our goal, so where we are today versus where we want to be 25 years from now. Then comes the details. How do we get there? What are the factors that are going to influence how we get there? What risks are we mitigating for? Do we and how we go through that process is kind of what we're doing now. I'm kind of giving incremental updates, and I know we want to see all this come very quickly, but it does take time. So the drivers of change, those future trends are what we're working on now. What are those risks that we need to keep in mind as we plan projects and complete our needs assessments? That next step, needs assessments in the MTP development process, is where you go look at a particular facility, pick road A, because I'm not creative this morning. What needs to happen there to improve, to solve a problem? What is the problem there that needs to be solved? And what is the best solution to mitigate all of the potential risks that we have talked about, all the consideration factors moving forward for a 25-year horizon? And what is that right project that we can decide on today? And then update the plan 5 years from now. So as we choose those near-term, cost-feasible, high-priority projects over the next year and a half, those are the ones that we'll work towards, and always have opportunities for public engagement, refinement as things continue to change, because we know that will happen. We're doing our best for December of 2025 to give us that shared vision and the path forward, knowing that there's opportunities for flexibility along the way.
Very good.
Does that answer your question? Thank you.
I don't know which of you two was first.
I've worked in large organizations. And I was their productivity improver. And I would ask people, why do we do it this way? What's the answer? We always did it this way. Well, that's not going to happen anymore. Technology is advancing behind the scenes now so fast, it'll knock your head off. I couldn't even tell you, involved with all this technology, what this place is going to look like in 2030, let alone 2050. I don't even know if we should talk about 2050 with the amount of change coming. It's almost ludicrous. And yeah, this is going to change huge. We should wait for this document, write it in a year from now, because we'd write something totally different. I'm done.
Ms. Pizzo.
Thank you, Chair. I was actually going to save this comment for the end of our meeting, but on the heels of what you had stated, I think it's more applicable now. My frustration is our transportation agencies they have a codependent relationship with the automobile owners, with vehicle owners. And that's the way I see it. What you had said about the improvements at Sand Lake and I-4, that is a perfect example of what are we doing? Why are we building more roads? Why are we widening roads? Why are we improving roads? Why aren't we improving those places where the pedestrian can walk, where the bicyclist can go, whether it's a electric bike or whatever they're hot on? Why aren't we focused on that? And that falls into the pedestrian safety with the Vision Zero. But still, we're out there grinding out those roads, widening those roads, and that is such a frustration to me. We don't need to be doing that. We need to stop being in that codependent relationship and focus on the pedestrian and focus on that broader picture. Thank
Ms.
you.
Pizzo, thank you so much. I was going to say, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, and that's exactly the kind of conversation that I'm hoping we can have going forward. Got it. Got it. We've got 3 more. I think I saw Ms. Webster first.
In this committee, we hear pretty much endlessly about plans, goals, and objectives. And yes, you have to have plans, goals, and objectives. But I personally would like to know more about how we do this, how we get there, and what the role of this group is in getting there. And I guess we're talking about a workshop, but I don't know if you can briefly elaborate on how we move these plans and objectives forward in a meaningful way.
And that's coming as our next step. So we have to do this as part of establishing where we're trying to go 25 years from now, because a lot will change from now to then. But that needs assessment. I had to gloss over that today. But the technical analysis is where we look at the problems that we see today, what we anticipate will be problems sometime between today and 25 years from now, and start developing those solutions. So the work you've seen through the active transportation plan and the TISMO master plan, which you'll hear more about, I'm trying not to steal their thunder. Those are needs assessments that are identifying solutions to problems. And those needs assessments have identified projects that are going to be recommended and directly incorporated into the MTP itself. If you look back at our 2045 plan, the needs lists for TISMO and bicycle and pedestrian projects. If you look back at the 2045 plan, that also has actionable items for complete streets and more that I will remember right after this meeting. It's all up on our website. But that is the intention, that we will have specific project needs, and those discussions will be happening within the next few months as those results become available.
I guess I would ask that the people that speak to us and give us these reports are very informed people. We on this committee are somewhat informed people. And I don't know how we do this time-wise, but I think cutting the reports short, not even allowing me time to read the slides that are on the screen to understand what you're talking about better. With our limited time, I don't know how you solve that, but I think we should be getting all the details of your report, even if it takes more time.
Understood. And I hear the frustration, especially, this is why I suggested the other, and we'll talk more about that, exactly how we fit into that. We're a cog in the machine. We'll figure out the answer to some of these, like how can we actually get more information going forward. I agree. I mean, but
you send the stuff out, or we can go on your webpage, we can read it, but it's much better when we get it from you all.
Yeah, if I may, I think it's just part of the process, and I think you hit on it. We are a metropolitan planning organization charged under federal law to develop plans. So a lot of your time is going to be spent hearing about plans. So
I get it.
Check that piece off here. But as it relates to kind of our time and as staff, that's kind of why, we do our best to get it at, a week in advance to you, so you can read it, mark it up, call in advance, ask a question. I know we're all busy. I talk to our technical committee about this often as well. Your first opportunity to reach out to Taylor is not this morning. 10 days ago, we kind of, started, or 7 days ago, started the process. So there is an opportunity there, but also acknowledging that we weren't going to have time to. That's why, Taylor mentioned we're going to be following up with that survey. So we had the objectives in your packet, mark it up. Taylor gave context to it to kind of put it into perspective, how you can provide the best meaningful feedback. And then we'll have that survey where you can tell us you like it, you hate it, I want you to rewrite it, you missed something, please include this, so we can iterate. And I think that's really your role in the process, is to help us refine the plans, define specificity. And if we need to spend more time talking about a topic because you're still kind of unsure or need more kind of education on something, that's where if you can let us know, you know, and if we need to set aside a half an hour to talk about the future of autonomy and the implications, you know, as such, you know, we can
Sure.
do that. And we're here, you know, we're listening very closely to the discussion that's happening. So I think you just kind of have to play it in process, but much of our work, you know, we meet 8 times a year, you know, we're cast, you know, as a production, you know, in a sense. So we have to be very mindful with time management, but to be a very productive advisory committee member, it does require advanced participation and post participation, not just your time here, you know, 8 times a year. So I'll leave it at that, but we do our very best to try to make it as clear and as succinct as possible so you as volunteer decision makers can make the most of your time with us.
And I will state again that we hear way more about roads, building roads, than we hear about public transit, which I think is highly involved with pedestrian and bicycle safety and all kinds of other issues.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a conversation for another day, but you're exactly right. This is my last question. And be mindful of the time too. We're supposed to have been.
It's not a question. I'm gonna use the word inputs. To me personally, to avoid all of these strategies, I think that in the driving school, they're supposed to educate more. And when I say this, I'm also talking about before renewing the licenses, especially for seniors, with the technologies of the vehicles that is being now changing, they should be more educated, get more educated, not just on the vehicles, but on the traffic. And the law should be enforced. Because sometimes what I'm seeing, and this is what makes me part to be here, is that when I'm saying the law is not being enforced, is because when, for example, when there is a ambulance or police siren is going, no one is coming off the road to give that transportation the right of way.
Right.
Number 2, with the bus links need to have a complete pull over to pick up their passengers, because with the speed limit, it does not give them the drivers enough time to slow down to avoid an accident. These are things that I'm seeing. And it's not just putting another driver in danger, but also those who are walking on the street.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And while those are valid comments and observations, those are actually considerably deeper questions than, you know, just for this one particular presentation. So, actually, I've got to hold questions right now. We're supposed to have been at 11 o'clock, right? Has it? Sir, I recognize you, Mr. Caesar.
Yeah.
That is
thank
my
you.
last question though,
And-
please.
And this question is going to be pretty brief. When we talk about the plans that we're looking at, how much buy-in do we have from external partners like Links? When we talk about accessibility and looking at communities that don't have accessible public transit, to if we see that that's a need to actually go into those communities.
So when we're looking at the funding revenues available, kind of on an estimation is usually $23 to $28 million per year of federal funds that Metro Plan Orlando is able to allocate to projects. Now, part of our existing funding structure in our 2045 MTP, which was adopted in December of 2020, and what will be enacted and active until we adopt the 2050 a year from now. That money is allocated into several different bins based on mode. Transit does get a dedicated source of funding. Complete streets projects, bicycle and pedestrian projects, TISMO projects, non-widening projects off the state highway system have dedicated sources of funding. Now, when we're talking about the overall cost of transportation projects, they're getting more expensive. So the limited funding that we have available on average per year is not going as far as what we're used to. So I think that might be some of the underlying frustration as well, that we're doing our best with the resources that we have available. But that full plan is available on our website right now. And if you have any questions about it, do let me know.
Yeah, conspiracy theorist in me says it's purely deliberate, but there you go. I stand. You know, so anyway, Ms. Taylor, thank you so much. We appreciate your presentation.
Thank
Very
you for
good.
your time
So,
today.
we've got, are you a speed rater? We have a presentation from Ms. Catherine Tellez. Fair and Peers, give us an update on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, that's my mistake on the agenda there. She is going to talk about the active transportation.
That's what I meant to say, the active transportation plan. We're all ears.
All right, great. Well, I'm here this morning to share with you an overview of the final plan, and we're calling it Ride and Stride 2050. So we started this project back in 2022. It's been about 2 years worth of work that I've been told I need to condense into 10 minutes. So there'll be some areas where I'll provide a little bit of detail, and then other areas where I'll kind of jump over things, but happy to answer questions at the end. So just want to highlight that throughout the course of the project, we have solicited feedback from the community in many different ways, including some workshops, committee updates, public engagement. So we had 5 steering committee meetings that allowed for a deeper dive to understand different aspects of the plan. We had 2 community advisory committee and technical advisory committee workshops. We also had 2 rounds of feedback opportunities from the public as well. And so throughout the presentation, I'll highlight sort of how we incorporated that feedback into the plan. So for today's presentation, sort of going to follow the outline of the plan itself. So how we define the existing conditions, how we develop the network, how we prioritize projects and identified some new policies, and then all the information is in the technical appendix that supported the analysis. So one of the first tasks was to really develop a common vocabulary for active transportation facility types. We realized at the outset we were calling the same thing by different names, and we were all getting confused. So we spent a little bit of time with the steering committee and the TAC and CAC to develop a naming standard with some pictures so that we could all be on the same page. So we did this for bicycle facility types as well as pedestrian facilities, trails. And then we use this to really understand what is already existing in the region and then what's already planned in the system. So once we had mapped all of the existing and planned facilities, we started doing some technical analysis. So this started off with level of traffic stress and pedestrian level of comfort ratings. So understanding how comfortable a road might be for somebody walking or bicycling. So at the high level, we have pedestrian level of comfort and level of traffic stress 1, meaning that these are really comfortable routes, can be used by people of all ages, all abilities. And then as you go down the numbering system, it gets slightly less comfortable to that, level of comfort 4, where you really only have your fearless enthused trained cyclists on a roadway. And then on pedestrian facilities, we added a level of comfort 5 rating, indicating that we don't even have a facility here because we wanted to differentiate between a facility that just really was not all that comfortable between no facility existed at all. Data that went into this analysis included traffic volumes, the number of travel lanes, what type of pedestrian or bicycle facility that you might have. And then we are able to calculate this for all roadways throughout the region. Once we understood how comfortable a facility might be for somebody walking or biking, we then completed an accessibility analysis. So this is not assessing what facilities are compliant with Americans with Disability Act, but rather defining how accessible specific destinations via a low stress walking and biking network is. So we incorporated a couple of different factors here. So the travel access, so it's the number of destinations a person can get to within a certain amount of time. So we looked at within 5 minutes, within 15 minutes, and then within 30 minutes. And then we looked at, well, how far can you travel within those timeframes for each mode of travel, and then whether or not that route was comfortable or not. And then we combined those to really look at, you know, how many destinations can you get to within a certain amount of time. So the image here on the screen is just a walk shed of Boone High School, just showing for different or schools in that general area of where people could walk to and from. So the turquoise color is highly accessible. You can get to schools from those neighborhoods, whereas the sort of the gray color, you're not within a 30-minute walk of a school. So expecting somebody to walk to a school might not be reasonable. So we looked at schools, transit stops, shopping destinations, jobs and parks. And then we sort of looked at the residential access to all of those different types of land uses. We then combined the accessibility analysis with the level of traffic stress and pedestrian level of comfort. And so, you know, after we had the accessibility score to each of those roadway links, and we summed that up, we then combine that. So you can see here on the screen, the turquoise are roads where we have lots of things that are accessible, and it's via a low stress network. Conversely, the orange it's a high stress network, but with lots of things there. So this was used to help us identify where we might need new or enhanced walking and biking facilities. So once we had that analysis done, we moved into developing the network. So we looked at where we might consider new trails or crossing enhancements, corridor improvements, where we might need some speed reduction or safety improvements. So we considered a host of data, including what's the existing traffic count, where do we have utility rights of way, what are the land uses and population information, and then where do we already have some planned roadway improvements that maybe we could piggyback on. So once we had that initial list, we presented it to the steering committee, and then based on their feedback, we came and had another TAC and CAC workshop to get initial feedback from everybody. And we started off that meeting with about 400 projects, and then we were able to whittle that down a little bit based on feedback. There were a number of projects where we thought, oh, maybe we could add something to this project, and then realized that project was too far along in the design process, or they just started construction, so we were too late to add an enhancement. So we incorporated all of that feedback. And then we went out to the general public with our feedback, with the planned projects to solicit feedback. We received over 440 or so very specific, detailed comments. So it was great to see folks in the region so engaged. And based on that feedback, we ended up adding 14 new projects to the project list. Because this is a regional plan, we missed a few things, and it was great to be able to get that feedback to incorporate. So we ended up with 253 projects overall. So 148 new projects on the books, and then 105 enhancements to already planned projects. So the new projects are here on the list. So we had 65 new corridor projects. So this includes adding or widening bike lanes, adding side paths. Some are speed management, some have more of a safety focus. And then about 57 intersection improvements. And then of the enhancements, those are opportunities perhaps as part of a resurfacing project. If a roadway already has a bike lane, hey, maybe we can narrow the travel lane, make that bike lane a little bit wider, a little bit more comfortable. There's some planned roadway constructions that have bike lanes incorporated. We identified some opportunities there of, hey, could we also do a side path? So we could have a more comfortable option for those who might not want to ride a bike on the street. So here is a map of what we're calling the Regional Active Transportation Plan Network. So this includes everything that's already planned on the books, as well as the new projects and enhancements that we identified. And we have more detailed maps for each county and some inset maps as well in the report. So based on all of this, the analysis, I'll just share a couple of highlights here. So we're able to double the number of facilities that are a level of traffic stress 1 within the region, which I think is a great outcome. And then we are also able to significantly reduce the number of facilities that were at a level of traffic stress 3 or 4. So the number of roadways that are not all that comfortable for cyclists will decrease in the future. And then sort of similar results for walking facilities. So really doubling the number of really comfortable routes in the region. We also conducted the accessibility analysis as well for that future condition, and sort of calculated a whole host of different statistics that are in the report, but some key highlights of just we're really able to improve those low stress routes to transit facilities, to jobs, to shopping throughout the region. And we're able to see improvements in the transportation underserved communities as well. So we have all that differentiation within the report. And this was all used to help us prioritize projects. We wanted to understand who would benefit from some of these projects and make sure that was incorporated into the process. And then here's how we prioritize projects. So we assessed, would there be a safety benefit? How much could we improve that accessibility and connectivity component? Looking at the transportation underserved, and then a few other factors. So this all went into identifying sort of the top projects that will then be incorporated into the MTP. In addition to identifying specific projects, we also developed a toolbox of strategies. So as projects are being implemented, some considerations for those implementing them to think about. So there was in these 4 main categories here. And it was really centered around safety, equity, inclusion, and health, and then connectivity and comfort. So looking through all of these different strategies through that lens. And then developed some policy recommendations related to ADA compliance, and there's been some new updates in the law, so some guidance there on how to best comply. Implementing some active transportation count programs, really understanding who's using what facilities where, some micro-mobility regulations, making sure there's some consistency across the region, and then just some guidance on the bicycle facility selection, just to make sure it's an appropriate facility for the context. So this will all be incorporated into the 2050 MTP, which Taylor talked about earlier. And then here's just our contact info. There's questions after the fact, but happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your presentation. I suggest that we submit any questions, comments via email after the fact, because Mr. Hill, you've got like 4.5 minutes, sir.
Take the time you need.
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's still morning. And good morning, members. This is our final presentation on our TISMO master plan. And for some of the new members, TISMO's use of information communication technology to improve mobility, reliability, and safety of our transportation system. Let me also add that I am infatuated with technology, but I'm not in love with it. That is famous. That's a famous saying. And it's attributed to me. So this plan has been in development since 2022. We were anticipating ending this plan at the end of last year, but it evolved. And so we had to extend it. We have a steering committee. We had 7 meetings. The steering committee is represented by 9 agencies. And then the final master plan includes a summary document and 9 technical reports. In addition, we have Kimberly Horn. Jim Wood is with us. He's project manager. So this plan, as Taylor has already indicated, is going to roll into the NTP. It's going to represent the TISMO portion of the NTP. And the vision, again, how do we leverage technology to provide mobility, improve safety in our systems? The goals are aligned with the past NTP. And so it will, again, it will be refined and aligned with the update that we're doing now. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, Mr. Chairman.
You're doing great, sir.
So this is the work, in essence, that we've completed with this master plan. We did a document research on all the efforts that our stakeholders are doing in this area. We've collected a lot of information. We've done a gap analysis, not only on what needs to be developed, but also how the institutions need to change as well. We've defined the strategies and we've identified funding opportunities. And then we developed a prioritized project list of the projects. And I'll highlight those projects, the top projects for each of the jurisdictions later. And again, we provided an update on this master plan at your February meeting, so some of this information you already know. So again, we started with trying to address gaps, but it evolved. And so we wanted to identify, we wanted to leverage the investments that we've already made. And then in addition to the devices, we wanted to look at intersection improvements. I talk about high technology and low technology. The low technology sometimes are just agreements, just changes in how we do things. So Seminole County, this shows the top projects in Seminole County that are GAP projects, and then the advanced, what we call the advanced ITS projects. And these are the projects that we're going to leverage what's already invested with new systems, such as signal performance measures, automated traffic management systems, integrated quarter management systems. So I'm going kind of fast, but there's an opportunity for you to review some of this work that's been posted on our website. So this is Seminole County. Here's Osceola County. Again, I'll just give you a chance just to look at this. Here are top priorities in Orange County. Now, Orange County required or asked that we do theirs a little different. They wanted to bundle projects as opposed to do separate projects. For example, in Bundle B, you'll see that you see the little dots along I-4. Those are interchange improvements. And the desire is to just make those just a bundle of projects and fund them that way. That was their request, that we do their projects as bundles. And these are for the city of Orlando. Intersection improvements. I shared this with you at the February meeting. Here are the intersections where we want to develop some devices or implement devices that make those intersections operate more efficiently. And that's where you have a lot of the congestion. If we can do something to make those operate more efficiently, we can improve mobility as well as safety. And this is, Mr. Chairman, the last slide. And it is our path forward, looking at regional strategies. Again, the low-end technology, the agreements across the region that we can pursue. And then some considerations, the active transportation plan, because there's some safety opportunities that we, or let me say a synthesis that we can do between the active transportation plan and this plan in along corridors to make improvements and support the Vision Zero Central Florida effort. And then this is a wild card for me, artificial intelligence. Who knows where this will go? There's a sense that, yeah, everyone knows where it's going and how it's going to be used and the benefits and the values. I get all of that. But in just a side discussion I had, if the science tells us not to do any more capacity projects, do you think that's gonna work? I don't know, but the science could tell us that. So this is, again, a wild card. I know that there's a lot of effort in trying to control it, because the risk is that it will lead us in the wrong direction, because the algorithms that are part of AI, they're developed by humans like us. And we have bias, we have, areas of interest that we have. And so that's what's going to control it. So again, it's a wild card, but it will continue to find its way, not only in our lives, but certainly in transportation. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is the last slide. These are the documents. They're not on our website yet, but they will be certainly by the end of the week. But I would suggest that you do review them. The summary document is going to give you most of the information you want to know about. The appendices, they're easy to read. I'll caution you about the regional ITS architecture. That's all schematics, these diagrams, so you're not going to find that a lot. That's not going to have a lot of interest for you, I suspect. But if you would take a look at these documents and provide us comments by May the 10th, we would greatly appreciate it. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I got it done in 4.5 minutes, but I
You
tried.
did great. You did great. I do mirror what Ms. Webster said. It does kind of a disservice to have the abbreviated presentations. You know, you did great, but
Thank you.
it would be great to have a lot more detail. And there we go, time constraints. Anyway, that concludes our presentation. I do recommend if anybody does have comments or questions for Mr. Hill, please submit them in writing to Mary Ann or to Rachel, and we'll track them down and go from there. I'll just mention there's several items under the general information tab 10 in your agenda packet. Next CAC meeting, May 29th. It's not the usual fourth Wednesday. By the way, I just note that it was moved because of Memorial Day. So just be mindful of that. Next Orlando board meeting on May 8th. And I don't actually think we even have time for comments. I wish we had more time, but there you go. We do have, however, we've come time for our second public comment period. Any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, use the raise hand function. You'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. After you're recognized, state your name and address for the record. Limit your comment to 2 minutes. Have anybody joining us virtually like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands raised.
Thank you, Lisa. Have any members of the public attending in person like to make a public comment?
Mr. Chairman, I've received no comments.
Thank you very much, Rachel. This time, no further business. Our meeting is adjourned at, wow, look at that, 11:34.
Well done. Don't forget, if you can give us any information on your yellow forms, please leave those at your places and help us out with that, or you can take it with you and bring it back next time. That would be very much appreciated.
That was your first meeting.
Well, pleased to have someone from the driving school here. Good, good.